Hey guys, I'm back once again. I'm sorry about that, but it looks like we caused a situation. We got guys constantly trying to be added to the interview. Somebody tried to call me from Facebook and caused the video to freeze up. So here we are. We're dealing with this situation here. Okay. Let's see if we can get further. Okay, looks like he's being added. Guys, I'm sorry about that. Please, again, do not request to. Okay, I'm back, man. I'm sorry about that, man. Somebody called through Facebook, and I don't know why. They sending me PMs. They trying to call me through Facebook, and it messed the whole deal up. But let me just
It's
go
all
ahead and
right, man.
repeat the disclaimer one more time since we started it all over again. All the information discussed in this interview is for historical, educational, entertainment purposes only. None of this information is intended for any illegal purposes. All opinions are respected of the individual. So, Ferdie, let's get back to where we left off at, man. I'm sorry this disconnected, but hopefully the guys that's
No
watching
worries,
know.
Jim.
Please do not, yeah, not please
Time's
don't
a
try to
charm.
get added to the video or call me. Exactly, right? So listen, let's go ahead and start where we left off. You talked about where you started at from when you started seriously breeding back in like '97. Now, what type of chickens did you have prior to that? Because like you say, you always had chickens.
I had some game fowl, but nothing serious. You know, I'd get a
Right,
cross here and there and breed it to whatever I thought was good. I didn't know
right,
much about breeding at the time, and just to be able to
right.
reproduce something, we had a little styrofoam incubator, you know, and so just to be able to reproduce something, man, I was
Right.
happy with that. You know what I mean? So it was it,
Exactly, exactly.
so it wasn't until like early, late 90s when I started really investing
Hmm.
in brood fowl. And that's when I
Right.
built up a place pretty nice. Um, got to meet Mr. Dale Steele and ended up kind of
Okay.
being his apprentice. He was my mentor. And so from there, I learned a lot. And running with Dale, if you were running with Dale, you were running with some of the big boys because he was the feeder for
Hmm.
Billy Johnson Sr., So I learned a lot just being around those guys and met a lot of great people from being around those guys. And that's really where I got my start. And even with the hennies that I used hennies in the World Slasher Cup in 2006. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, that was the beginning of the henny craze in the Philippines, man. That was the start of it, and that in itself is what caused a lot of the big pits in the Philippines um, to ban hennies from any of the big events.
What?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, we didn't get to talk about that, but yeah, that's what happened. After we won it, they banned it. They banned hennies because of the advantage that they had. But that bloodline started from Dale Steele, from a Jap broodcock. We have this family of Japs called 10K Japs because Billy Johnson Sr. paid $10,000 for a rooster and 4 hens or 5 hens or something like that. And
Wow.
so Dale got it. He bred it, and Dale was a minor blue man. He loved minor blues. And he bred that black Jap to a minor blue, and he got a black henny. I mean, 100% henny feathered. Beautiful rooster. Um, and I didn't like hennies. I still don't like hennies, to be honest with you. Just not my thing.
But
I
they
wouldn't go
win.
around trying. Yeah. So I ended up. Dale gave the broodcock to my dad because my dad loved hennies, and bred it to the Harold Brown hatches that I had first started with. And out of that mating, everything came out red but one rooster. One rooster came out brown henny, yellow-legged, black spurred, and that rooster became the main broodcock, the father, granddaddy, and everything else of the henny bloodline that we got. And then from
Wow.
there, we just infused new bloodlines into it just to keep the family going. And until now, we have it. So
So tell me this. So you have to give us a little backstory on this, first of all, the advantage that the Hennies have and what made them, I guess what the advantage that the Hennies have is what made them actually ban it, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's it, Jim. Exactly that. Exactly that.
So give us some backstory, man. What was it? What's the advantage?
So, when we were first and when we were first breeding the Hennies, the style that they had weren't coming out the way that I wanted. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to be, I wanted them to have intelligence.
Okay.
And guys, I'm talking about this in the Philippines, all right?
Right.
In a legal country.
Right.
I wanted them to have intelligence, but they didn't have that in the beginning. So we changed it up a little bit, and we finally made a mating where they did have the intelligence. And so when the time was right, and we brought them to the World Slasher in 2006, man, I took those birds and I pulled them all the way back to the back of that wall, and just set them down and let the other rooster come to them. And the other rooster would come to them, thinking that they were a female, cut a wing, and there was your advantage. So when they saw that, yeah, that was it. When they did that, that's what sparked all the controversy, man. Major in the Philippines banned it because of that. And then later on, they brought it back.
And it's like you. Okay, Ferdie, say that one more time, because when you was moving, the screen kind of clouded out. So when they did that with the female, the bird realized, rooster went over there, realized that, hey, this is not, thought it was a female and it wasn't. So they looked at that. That was the advantage that they were saying you had over the rest of the roosters, huh? That almost like your rooster was like a decoy.
Right. There was an unfair advantage, they said. Unfair advantage. And so because of that, they banned it.
So it wasn't anything about the style or their ability, is the fact that they felt as though it was tricking the roosters.
That's right. It was the feathers. The Henny feathers.
Wow.
Yeah, the Henny feathers. And even now, Araneta, they banned it. They allowed it again. And then after last year or the year before, they ended up banning it again.
Banning it again, huh? Wow, that is amazing. But so tell me this, though. I know you said you don't really like Hennies. Is it because of the feathers or because of the performance?
To be honest with you, I've never really seen Hennies that I was really impressed with, you know? Mm-hmm. And even when Dale gave that broodcock to my dad, I was kind of like, what are we going to do with that thing? And I just, I just threw it in a pen, and lo and behold, there was one bird that came out, brown Henny, yellow-legged, and that was it. Crossing some Larry Carter Kelly, and then I crossed it on some yellow-leg hatches. I crossed it on some Cowans. But for the most part now, that bloodline is pretty heavy in Kelso blood. New Kelso blood that I got. Some of the Johnny Bishop Kelso stuff that I got. Yeah. Okay,
so that's what is heavy in now. Well, just to let you know, I love Hennies. I mean, they Puerto Rican. I don't know how the American version of it. I love Hennies, man. I mean, those Hennies put me on the map. That's all I can say. They put me to hit like a hammer, man. They be 3-3, but hit like they 4-5, man. I mean, it's just phenomenal, man. Just phenomenal. But again, I don't think it's common, because I was always the underdog. They're always walking as the underdog, especially with that color, which they call amarillo, which here in the States they call pumpkin. And like I said, he's a Henny, but was extremely good bird. So, but man, that is amazing, man. So you still got that line till today.
Yeah, that's even if I wanted to get rid of it, I probably wouldn't, because I owe that much to it. That put us on the map.
Wow.
That's where we got our name, So
wow. Yeah. So let's talk about now. So we kind of talked about your breeding, where you got your foundation and your history. How many birds do you breed or produce a year, a season?
I'm sure all my friends are laughing right now when you ask that question because no, you know, I try to produce maybe about 100 stags a
Right.
year, and you know, for some reason the incubator works too good, or the fertility is just too good, and ends up being, you know, sometimes double that, 1.5 that. You know how that
Right.
is.
I know
You
how it
know,
is.
and
Exactly. You
then
end up start off with 100 and then you got 300.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And you always anticipate that something's gonna happen. You know, that something,
That's
you
right.
know, something's gonna happen. You're gonna get hit by a dog or
That's
something,
right.
or you know.
That's right.
And so, you know, but yeah, we try to produce about 100 stags.
About 100. And then no, and I think you're 100% correct. I mean, because it's a lot of time. So if a dog run through your yard, he done ate up like 2 years of your time.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
you're exactly right. We always tend to try to purposely overproduce probably more than what we're going to need because we got the expectations that, you know, a hawk going to come, some type of varmint dog or something is going to cause you some harm.
Predator.
So
out here we got coyotes everywhere, man.
Right.
We got my partner in another city where we range the birds, got 3 acres over there. And so we range all the stags over there, and there's coyotes galore over there, man.
Wow, that's exactly right.
We always anticipate that we're going to lose some, and oftentimes we do, and other years we don't.
Right.
So it just really depends. But to me, it's always better to have more than not enough.
That's exactly right, especially when you got to wait 2 years for them. So that's exactly right. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, what your expectations or your standards are when it comes to making selection and setting up your brood pen. So, you know, let's talk about what do you look for in a brood cock?
Well, you know, there's a couple different schools of thought in regards to that, right? There's a lot of people who believe that you need a pure bloodline in order for it to produce well. And other people will say because it's an animal, what you really need to look for is a conformation. I tend to kind of balance the two schools of thought when I make a selection. In order for me to use a so-called crossed rooster as a broodcock, he better have phenomenal qualities in terms of ability, in terms of information. One of the major things that we look for is the information of the bird in terms of how their legs are placed on that rooster. I always tell my friends, it seems like the legs are coming out from his chest, you know? Legs are set in front of the rooster, not behind him. You know, and it's almost, you know, it's almost like the legs are coming out directly from his chest. And then I'm very, very particular in regards to the keel bone and the pin bones of the broodcock, and the hen too. There's a certain feel that I go for when I put my palm underneath that rooster and I feel his bones. If I feel a hook there, it's something that I kind of stay away from. I like flat with a keel bone extending all the way to the back, keel bone. When you got Orientals, you're not going to find that in Orientals because they got a different body conformation, you know. But in terms of American,
okay, Ferdie, one thing. It looks like your video was going out. So I'm sorry, but I want you to repeat that because we was only able to hear like every other word. I don't know if it's because you're moving, but we only heard about every other word. And I really want them to hear what your standards are, the things you look for in a broodcock.
So I look at the station. I look at the leg placement of the bird. It has to be, the legs have to be coming as it has to seem as though the legs are coming directly down from the chest. Okay. Where the legs are placed in front of the body of the bird, not behind it. Okay. If you got a rooster that's kind of squatting a little bit, that's not what I like. At the same time, I like a nice long keel bone. Okay. And again, I like to use my palm and feel that keel bone. I go from the chest down. I'll use this as an example. Okay. So if I'm going down, if I'm looking like this, I like to feel right here, right on that keel. And if I feel a hook right there, it's something I try to stay away from. Okay. Yeah, there are some There are some bloodlines that are deep keeled, and I respect that too. I understand, but when you're talking about a bloodline that is supposed to naturally have a football body, that's some of the stuff that I look for. Now you got some other bloodlines where they're yellow leg hatches or whatnot, and they got a deeper keel. Then you got to understand that you're not gonna be able to really get the feel that you want on those kinds of chickens. As a matter of fact, and something good for the beginners to understand, and some of the things that not just my mentor Dale has told me, but other good breeders that I respect too, is when you have a certain bloodline that performs the way that you want it to perform, you don't try to refine their conformation too much, because sometimes in doing so, you end up taking the ability away from that bloodline by changing their conformation. So if they have a certain conformation in which they perform the best, that's the target. So if it means that bloodline is a deep keel bloodline and they perform the best at that type of conformation, that's what you need to maintain. You try to, I don't try to change too much of the bloodline to where if I breed something and then I see that the results weren't as good as I wanted to because I'm refining it too much, then I'll go back. I'll go back to the original and discard those offsprings, and try again. You know what I mean? And just another, tip to the beginners too is when you get to that point where you're breeding, once you've bred a brood cock, don't sell the brood cock.
Right.
Don't sell it. Because I've seen a lot of people do that where, they'll advertise it on Facebook or whatever, like, oh yeah, I bred this rooster, now it's for sale.
Right.
Well, that rooster produced outstanding offspring, and now they don't have that rooster anymore to continue.
That's right.
And then they take the offspring of that particular brood cock and try to breed it, and it no longer produce what they wanted it to produce.
Great
so
point.
what they should have done is kept the original parents and just lock that mating and produce whatever you can, as much as you can out of that mating, Got a bug over here. That's really, I go by a certain confirmation. I go by
hold on one second, Ferdie. While you start doing all that moving, the voice and everything start to readjust. So just sit still for a second if you can, because I know you're being attacked.
I'm in the back here.
What I want to say, because you made a very valid point, and you're correct, you do see that. So you're basically saying that, when you do find whatever you like, when you out there and you see it, and you like it, try to just reproduce that and not so much try to alter it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people do that where they had a bloodline from a breeder, and then they try to make it better than what that original breeder had. And next thing you know, that bloodline doesn't look like the original breeders anymore, because through years they've tried to select it. Yeah, they've made it look nicer, but they've lost the ability. They lost the ability, and as much as like they say in the Philippines all the time, it's not a fashion show.
Right. That's
you gotta do what you gotta base it off of ability.
That's exactly right. So no, and I agree 100%. And I think a lot of times, and I don't know what the reason is for that. I see a lot of guys go out there, they get something that they like, it performs the way they need to perform, and I understand that we always trying to get better, but I think also being able to reproduce what you have is getting better. I mean, because it's not easy to reproduce what you have. So I think some guys look at the surface of that statement and don't truly look deeper than his statement. If you can reproduce what you have that you like, that's actually getting better. You don't have to alter it to make it say, oh, it's better now because look, it's shaped different. No, 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 no. I'm able to reproduce exactly what originally attracted me to this bird or this bloodline or this family. I mean, would you agree?
That's right. Oh, 100%. And you know, another point too, especially to the beginners, you know, when you're out there trying to select the bloodlines that you like, you know, or you go and you watch somebody perform and you really like what they have. Well, be sure to buy both sides of the family. You know, in other words, if you've seen a guy with good hatch kelsos, okay, make sure you buy his hatches and you buy his kelsos. Don't just buy kelsos and then expect to put it on your hatches and expect the same results. You see what I mean?
And Ferdie, say that. Yeah, no, I see exactly what you mean. Say that one more time so they can hear that clear, because that's an excellent point.
You know, you got somebody that likes a particular breeder's hatch kelsos. You know, do the right thing and buy that breeder's hatches, buy that breeder's kelsos to make the same identical cross. And then don't anticipate that you can take that breeder's kelsos and put it on your hatches and expect to get the same thing. You can do that as an experimental cross, but if you want to try to get as close as you can, get those two families from that breeder. That way you can try to replicate what they have done. Even when you do that, it's not 100% guarantee that you're going to get what that breeder had, you know.
That's right. That's
but
right.
You have a higher probability of doing it. You know.
No, that's exactly right. And that's a great point, because you almost see the opposites all the time. Somebody go and buy this man's hatches and put it on top of their kelsos, or somebody go buy this person's bird and put it on top of theirs. And they went to that person to buy that because they like what he has. But a lot of times they'll rush out there and buy it and put it on top of it. And breeding is not that simple. If it was that simple that you can just go buy it and add it on to what you already have and voila, you got it. And let me tell you, sometimes they get tricked. They go do it, bang, voila, they get that hatch, put it on top of their kelsos, everything turn out good. But 2 generations down the line, everything is trash. They don't wonder why. Well, what's going on here? Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why you gotta, when I go out, when I purchase something, I always like to purchase at least a pair. And it's because if I went to that person because I like what he has, I ask him his opinion. I don't go there picking out the birds. I let him pick it up. If I trust him enough to do business with him, I trust him enough to pick the right pair. He knows his birds better than I know them. So he knows what created what I like. You know what I mean? I just know what I like, but he knows what created what I like. So I go to them and I buy at least, like with my Henny, I bought the Henny and I bought his mother. You know, I couldn't buy his father because his father was gone. So the closest thing I can do is buy his mother, you know, and I tried to buy 3 or 4 sisters, but it was none available. But at least I bought his mother because, again, if you like what you see, you got to do exactly what you said. Go buy what created it and let the breeder give you what created it. Don't walk into the yard and say, I like this, I like that, I like this. Well, that ain't probably what he used to create what you like.
That's right. I've talked to a lot of people and they'll say, oh man, I went to this guy because he had such and such awesome this and that. Well, and then when they bought it, they say, well, that guy sold me junk. Well, that's not necessarily true. That just means that whatever you bought didn't nick with what you had.
That's right.
But if you would have bought the other bloodline that he had and crossed it the way that he did, you probably would have gotten the results that you wanted.
That's right.
And that's the reason why you went there to begin with.
That's exactly right. And the way I look at it is this. One, you never put a price on another man's birds. You know, whatever that man wants, that's his business. You can never say, I can get stags all day long for 125 and this guy 15. Listen, I don't never talk about price. But what I do, this is the way I look at it. I look at it from a standpoint that I'm buying time. if I go to this breeder, which I like, this is one breeder that I like, and he say this pair is $2,000, then the pair is just $2,000. It's just that simple.
Right.
Because the way I look at it as this, I can continue to go to his house and spend 500 on the stuff that he's using to produce that, or I can just go buy what he's using to produce the $500 stags. Why don't you go buy the mama and the daddy? So when I go, I look at it as not spending $2,000. I look at it as how many years am I saving by spending this $2,000 on this pair versus trying to buy two for $500 each and come back and say I'm gonna try to do the same thing that the breeder did. Well, it ain't that easy. You know, it's just not that easy. It's a reason. You know, it's a reason that, you know, good breeders breed for so long and become good breeders. They put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of experimentation. And I always say, do exactly like you said. Go there and buy both sides. Let that breeder pick out what calls, you know, what produce what you like, and then kind of take it from there. So you buying yourself some time. I mean, years to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the truth. That's the truth.
So Ferdie, let's talk about, so we talked about your concept. So let's talk about the hens. You told us what you like in the brood cock. How do you like your hens?
Same thing, small head. The keel is huge for me when it comes to the hen. That's the number one thing I look for when it comes to the hen. The leg placement, and the keel. I want that long extended keel, pin bones really tight, legs placed out in front. I normally like bigger hens, because you could always make the family smaller, but it's hard to make them bigger.
Gotcha.
You know, you could make them smaller by breeding later on in the year, and the offspring will become smaller. So I like to start with bigger hens, and you can kind of fix the size that way. But if you get small seed stock, and then next thing you know, you're breeding it throughout all the right time of the year, and they're still coming out small. Well, it's going to be difficult for you to maintain that. You're going to have to put new blood in it to get the height that you want, the size that you want, and then breathe that blood out. So just starting with a bigger hen is what's going to save you some time, you know.
Okay. Ferdie, so tell me this, and I know you're talking about the kill bone. Have you, what attracted you, or what got you focused on that kill bone that makes you use that as a part of your decision making? Is it something that you've seen from a bird that had another different position on kill bone?
You know, it was I noticed it in because I like to single mate. So I've noticed it in how the offspring from different hens. And then what I did, it was kind of funny. I would take people that I respect and invite them to my place. And they'll go into the brood pen, and I'll say, pick the hen that you think is good, that you like. And people that I really respect. And then they would pick the hens that was similar, or sometimes it was dead on, the one that I wanted myself. So the characteristics that we were thinking was exactly the same. And then I went to other breeders in different states, and talking to them, and they told me the identical thing. I mean, when they, when I asked for just their opinion on stuff, and I would compare it to my standards, I was about 97% on. And then by talking to other people, they would give me the other 3% that I was lacking. You know what I mean? And so I felt good about that. And from doing that, I knew that I was on the right track by doing that. But record keeping is number one. Record keeping is absolutely number one. You got to have the right records. If you don't, then, you're not going to know what produced what,
Right, exactly. And you said you like to do a lot of single mating?
A lot of single mating, a lot. I'll do flock mating if all the hens are sisters and they all have identical bodies, identical conformation, that kind of thing. But when it comes to specifically producing pure bloodline, so to speak, I'll single mate. Always single mate.
Okay,
You know?
always single mate. So
Yeah.
now you gave us an idea on what you look for in the hens and the brood cocks. Now let's just move to the next step as far as the breeding. Now, do you incubate or natural hatch?
You know, I was incubating for some time. I'm kind of getting away from that. What I like to do, and something that I've been doing the past couple of years, is I'll try to set 3 or 4 hens at the same time.
Okay.
You know, I'll have hens setting everywhere. Then I'll set the same, or even if they're different, as long as you mark them. But I'll set 3 or 4 hens at the same time, and then they'll all hatch. And then normally I'll use an Oriental mother to care for all 4 of those batches.
Wow. Explain. Give us some detail on that.
So an Oriental mom, an Oriental hen, they tend to be some of the best moms out there. You know what I mean? They just have a different practice compared to American hens. They're really, really good moms. And so I'll combine 3 or 4 batches under one hen. But I use a barrel method, whereas you guys, a lot of the old timers are probably familiar with it. But what it is you take a 55-gallon drum and you cut it in half, you know, the long way. And so now you got half a drum, and on the bottom of that, on the cut part of that drum, you create a base with wire on it. And that way at night, the birds are sleeping off the ground, not on the dirt. So even if you got 3 or 4 batches, that Oriental hen is going to go into that barrel, and the birds are going to stay warm in that barrel. You don't have to worry about the cold from the ground affecting them, because not all the chicks are obviously going to fit underneath that hen's wings, you know.
Right.
But being in the barrel, and the heat from all the chicks in that barrel is going to cause, you know, the warmth to protect them, and it works out great. So as opposed to having to change 4 water containers every day, you're changing 1. You know. And so it makes it a lot easier. So we've been doing that the past couple of years, and it's worked out really good.
And you have the Oriental hens as using them to nurture the chicks.
That's right. As the mom.
Wow.
Yeah. I got one right now. I think she has like 38 chicks or something like that. Something crazy.
Wow. That was going to be my next question. How many chicks you put with the hen? And you said she got almost 40 of them, huh?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does. And now, you know, they're at that age where they wander everywhere. So I just put her in a cage where, and they're roosting now. So I put her in a cage where the chicks can run out and run free. But then they'll come back to her in the evening and roost with her on the roost pole. So they've graduated from the blue barrel to that type of cage where they can run free outside of the cage, but the hen is still inside that cage, and then they come back in on the roost pole with her. Works out real good.
Great. So tell me this. So now we talked about that. Let's talk about the way you mark and keep track of them, since you migrate them over to another hen. So how do you keep track of the chicks? Well,
the first thing I try to do, if I'm doing 3 or 4 batches, I try to do it of all the same cross. So if I'm making hatch grays as an example, you know, from flock mating with 1 rooster and 4 hens, I'll take all the eggs from there and put them under, you know, 3 or 4 hens, and then once they hatch, so they're all basically brother sister, you know. So they only need 1 marking. But if you are going to use different crosses or whatnot, you're going to need to mark them before you put them with the mother hen in order to know. But yeah, there was something I wanted to share with the group for the beginners. I had a couple people ask me like what they use, that they use a program in order to keep track of their records, and I just wanted to share this. This is something that I made simple on Excel. It's really simple. So basically, you start there with the breed name. And then I put egg mark on there. If it's or brood pen number, and then the father, the mother, you could put the leg band, wing band number. And then I made this little marking system on Excel, which is really easy. And so you could just put the circles where they belong, and then write exactly what how they're marked, right nose, left in.
Got you.
So this is something that's really easy to do. And once you create this and put it on your computer, you got it saved, not just having it in a binder, and then the binder gets wet. And then next thing you know, all your records are gone, or, the rats get to it and chew stuff up, and you don't know. So this is something that I use. I've been using this for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years now. But it's just something real simple.
So tell me this, Ferdie. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna message you my email address, and if you can send that to me so I can get it out to everybody, and because and if you can even post a picture of it in the comment section of the video, this way they can also see it.
Sure, no problem.
But this way we can kind of get that out, because that's solid information, and there's a lot of people that's doing it by hand. But that right there is a saver, because, guys can get that and just make copies of it, get it and make copies of it, or they can hand draw it and make their own. But at least if they can get the blueprint from you, they can just, kind of take it from there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The important thing to me is that it's saved on the computer.
Right.
Because too many things, I've had it happen too many times where you lose the pages. Or you write it down somewhere, you forget where it was.
That's exactly
or a rainstorm comes and it gets wet and you didn't realize there was a leak in the cock house or whatever. You got to have it in the computer.
So that's edible.
That's
edible on a computer. So you can edit it right on a computer?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh,
it's
that's
just Excel.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's just Excel.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely perfect there. No, that makes a lot of sense, and you're exactly right. I mean, I got some records right now I need to get access to, but they're in my storage. So if I had it on a computer, then I still would have it. Now I got guys asking me what this came from. I'm like, look, the records are in my storage, and I got to get over to my storage to even tell you. But then you got to dig through all that stuff to find out where you even
exactly.
So I think that that's great, man, and that'd be something great that we can get to the community, because I think exactly like you said, especially with Google Drive and iCloud, once you get it edited, you can actually have access to it no matter where you at. 20 years down the road, you'll still have access to it. That's very important.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to share, Jim, if I may, in terms of on the topic of breeding, this is a secret, so don't tell nobody, Jim. But but one thing that I like to do, and I started this about 20 years ago. I didn't learn this from anybody. I learned it by myself. But what I like to do is I like to breed two similar families together. So as an example, if I'm going to make cow and yellow leg hatches, right? I'll take two yellow leg hatch families and I'll breed those yellow leg hatch families together. Then I'll take the hens of that offspring and put a pure cow and broodcock on top of them. So in reality, the cross that I'm making is a three-way cross. But if you ask me what it is, I'm going to tell you it's a cow and yellow leg hatch, and you think it's half and half.
Right.
But the vigor that comes from that two-way cross pullet, when you breed a pure cock on top of that, man, it's different.
Wow.
I did that when I first started breeding those red fox hatches and the brown reds. I would cross two different hatches together and put a brown red on top. Phenomenal. Then I started thinking, well, let me try to do it with the Kelsos. So I did it with the Kelsos and put a round head on top of them. Came out really good.
Wow.
And so I've been doing that ever since. I cross two similar families together. Then I'll take that offspring and I'll use a pure something or another on top of them.
Wow.
And it works out really, really good. Three-way crosses.
Three-way crosses, but it's amazing because the two similar families is not far from each other. So it's not like a straight, wide open three-way cross with three different sets of characteristics. Two of the families are very similar. So that's a good strategy. That's a good strategy. Yeah. And obviously, no matter what it throw back to, it's not going to be too far from the two families on that side because they have similar characteristics.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Instead of getting thrown away in left field, you actually still making that three-way cross, but the two that you using is that is something that makes a lot of sense. And you said you have had great success with that, huh?
A lot. It's my number one favorite way to cross. by far, by
Wow.
better than half and half. You know, better than 5/8, 3/8. That three-way cross right there is it's really done wonders for me. You know,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
the first I have heard of that. And that makes a lot of sense when you really sit back and think about it, because you're still getting what you're looking for out of a cross, but then you're not getting thrown in left field to have to come all the way back because what you're using a cross is very similar. That makes a lot of
right,
sense, man. I can promise
yeah.
you that's going to save somebody some years.
Yeah, I hope it does. I really hope it does. I told some close friends about that, and they followed it and with good success too. But this is the first time I'm actually announcing it to everybody.
Wow, man.
So
Well, we really appreciate that. So tell me this, Freddie. Let's talk about now. You know, you talked about the breeding. You talked about your characteristics, what you look for in a hen and in brood cock. And you talked about how you do the natural hatch now more so than the incubators. Then you talked about you like to use the Oriental hen to mother the chicks. Now let's talk about, how is your feeding regimen as far as with the biddies, the feeding regimen, medicate, medicine and all that. Take us through the program that you kind of use for your chicks.
well, the when we used to incubate, it was a lot easier to have a vaccination program because you got a bunch of chicks you could vaccinate all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, to be honest with you, it's harder,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you work, like
Mm-hmm.
a majority of us do,
Mm-hmm.
and having a hobby is the side gig,
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that stays consistent in what we do is the LS50 the first 7 days.
Okay.
That is mandatory. And in all honesty, I went through 1 year where I didn't do it, and you don't notice the difference when you're doing it every year.
Mm-hmm.
What you notice is the year that you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed a big difference of that the birds look as good as I was doing it the previous years. The first 7 days is mandatory. And they hit the prohibit deworming. It's called prohibit. And it's a
Okay.
powder dewormer that you could buy from Jeffers. Most everybody knows
Okay.
about that, but it's called Prohibit. You buy it from jefferspet.com. You use that on the
Okay.
21st day, and then every after. The biggest thing in Southern California, a couple of the biggest vaccines that we really need is the fowlpox vaccine because of the weather that we have here. So it's mandatory
Okay.
that we vaccinate with fowlpox once they become of age. And my regiment on
Okay.
that is, again, I have them in cages until they're about quail size, and then we let them loose at the 3-acre farm. So before we let them loose at that 3-acre farm, that's when we hit them with fowlpox. Before then, in a perfect world, Jim, if I could, I would vaccinate everything with Merrick's. But again, Merrick's is
Okay.
supposed to be on the first day. And when you're
Okay.
hatching out different dates at a time, that makes it really, really difficult. But
Got you.
I've talked to different breeders, and they have sworn to me that even if you don't do it on the first day, there's still a huge benefit to doing it. And so we've
Okay.
made it a point, too, that when we hit them with the fowlpox, we also hit them with the Merrick's vaccine before we let them run free. So, and then
Okay.
the other thing that we also do here that we really need to do is the Newcastle bronchitis vaccine. The world knows about our Newcastle problem out here. Even though the Newcastle strain of the vaccine that we're using is not the same strain as the problem, the epidemic that we're helped.
Ferry, you breaking up. You breaking up bad.
The Newcastle vaccine that we use, that strain is not the same Newcastle strain that has become an epidemic here in Southern California. However, it's been proven that using that Newcastle vaccine has helped to control the spread of that disease. So it's mandatory for us to vaccinate for Newcastle bronchitis.
Got you.
So,
Got you.
yeah.
And Ferdie, if you can go back, you know, later on and after the interview and put some of this stuff in the comments, because the video is still jumping out and coming in and jumping out and coming in, and we can't hear it clearly exactly like your whole regimen. We got the first 7 days, the 21st day, the fowl pox, and then the Newcastle, correct?
Newcastle and Merrick's, yeah. Then we
Merrick's.
try to do Merrick's on the same day as we do the fowl pox.
Got you.
Yeah.
So listen, is there any products that you use?
Yes, I brought a few here, and guys, I don't sell products, so I'm not doing this to try to sell you guys on anything. But a lot of people ask me, you know, what is mandatory for us to have at the farm, and I'm going to show you. One of the things that I always need to have at the farm is this. This is a bottle of fish Zol.
Okay.
Metrandazole.
Okay.
And this is mandatory for us to have here. Anytime you get a bird with canker or you get a bird with the greens, you give them this pill and it helps them out tremendously.
And,
so that
and
is
how
one
long
item.
and how many?
What I normally do, anytime I give a pill for them, I normally give them a booster of 2 pills on the first day. And then I'll follow it up with a single pill for 3 to 5 days, depending on the condition of the bird.
Got you. Okay.
So this is one thing that I really like to keep at the farm. It's mandatory that we always have it in stock. And then the other thing is this amoxicillin. I learned this the hard way about 7 years ago when, you know, a lot of the products I was using weren't working. And then I bought this and just started giving this by itself. And man, what a difference. A huge difference.
And what type of situation would it be for you to use that?
So if a bird has a cold or if a bird is coming down with coryza, we don't have very many cases of coryza, but every now and again, if you do have a stubborn case, and most of the time, if I get a bird that's like that, I'll normally just cull it. But if it's something that's absolutely worth saving, then I'll give them this stuff. I'll give them this amoxicillin, and it helps.
It does.
It helps a lot. Yeah.
How many pills and how long?
Same thing. I'll do 2 pills on the first day. Then I'll follow it up with a pill for 3 to 5 days, depending on the
condition of the bird.
On the condition of the bird. Yeah.
Okay.
And then see, and I thought about this amoxicillin because anytime I got friends that go to the Philippines, one of the main things that they bring back for me is this.
Got you.
It's Amtil 500.
Okay.
And basically all this is amoxicillin and tylosin. And sometimes if you use the same product all the time, you know, the bird's defense system gets immune to it. So I switched it up and just gave them straight amoxicillin, and it worked like that.
Wow.
So this is another product that we try to keep in stock whenever we can. You know, having a pill form is a lot easier and I think less stressful on a bird. In terms of the baby chicks, one thing I like to have is this. This is also from the Philippines. I've noticed that this doesn't work too well on adult chickens.
It doesn't, huh?
But no. But when you put this in the water for baby chicks, they're feeling droop, perky, put this in there and I guarantee you, man, in a matter of 2 or 3 days, you see a huge difference in them.
Got you.
This, you just take this 1 pack and you put it in a gallon of water. The big pack comes in a box like this. With a whole bunch of different small packs.
I got you.
Okay, so that's the other thing I like to keep. Here's another one that I want to share with you guys. I understand down south you guys have medicated feed for chicks that contains BMD, which is bacitracin. And over here, we don't have that. So what I do is I buy this. This is that BMD water-soluble powder.
Got you.
And if you look this up on Google or find out the benefits of it, it'll tell you this really helps the birds in terms of their gut quality, being able to absorb all the nutrients.
Right.
It helps with the greens. But what I like to do is I'll take a teaspoon of this, put it in a gallon of water.
Okay.
And when I feed my baby chicks, I normally feed them wet feed.
Oh, you do feed them wet. Okay.
I feed the baby chicks wet. And so when I mix the water up, I put it in that chick feed, and they'll eat it right up. If you put this in the water, it tastes bitter to the birds.
It does.
Oftentimes they don't drink very much, unless they really have to.
Right.
So by putting it in the feed, dog food, or putting it in the chick feed, the birds are definitely going to get it in their system. But it's something that really works. You could order this on jefferspet.com as well.
Okay.
BMD. And again, a lot of the feed, from what I understand in the South, carry this already in the feed, but we don't have it here.
Right.
So we have to do a different supplement, Oh, and here's one thing. I'm going to teach you guys a trick of the trade. This is from some of my good friends in the Philippines that I learned. This right here, I didn't have a bottle, but I wanted you guys to see it. Yakult. This little milk bottle right here that you could find in the grocery stores, it's a probiotic. It has a lot of good bacteria in it.
Right.
We always keep a supply of this. In the event that you get a bird that is crop bound, can't pass their feed or anything like that, you just put some of this, just try to fill up their craw as much as you can of this milk, and man, I guarantee you, the next day, almost all of it will be dissolved.
Wow.
It works wonders, man.
Get out of here.
Yeah, this works wonders. So we always keep a bottle of that, in our fridge all the time.
And you said it works overnight almost, huh?
Oh, yeah. A majority of the time that I've used it overnight, you see the difference. You'll see that they pass the feed. And then in a matter of 2 or 3 days, it's, they're pretty much good as gold.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Ferdie, what we're going to need you to do, after the interview, if you can post pictures of all the items that you showed us in the comment section, because I'm pretty sure guys are going to have some questions, but this way they can get a really good picture of everything that you showed us today in this video. That'd be great.
No, we'll do. Not a problem, man.
Okay, so now we got to the feed. Now, what type of feed do you start them off with? You said you start them, you feed wet. Those are the things that, that's some of the things that you might add to it. But what type of feed do you start them off with?
We have a starting grow type of crumble over here. It's medicated with amprolium in it. So that's what we use. Okay. Like I said, we wet it for 2 reasons. One is because if it's dry, it gets kicked all over the place and you lose a lot of it. Secondly, they love the wet moisture of it. And third, for some reason, and I don't know the scientific reason behind this, but you hardly get any feather pecking with the chicks when you feed them wet.
Wow.
I don't know why that is, but I've noticed it a lot when you feed dry. You may get some, they start feather pecking, but it's not 100% foolproof. Right. But I'm talking maybe it's improved by maybe 80-90%.
Wow.
Where they don't peck as much. Feeding them wet. Yeah. Yeah. And once they're used to that wet feed, I mean, they adapt to it really quick, but by feeding them wet, it gives you a lot of avenues to be able to control what they ingest. If you need to give them medication, if you need to deworm them, any of that, so we like to do it that way. Well, I've suggested it to a few guys, and they've tried it, and man, it's made a big difference.
It has worked out perfect.
Yeah.
So you start them off with that. Now, how long do you typically feed them that? But you said you do all their feed wet. Is it up to a certain age or?
What a good friend of mine once told me, as soon as they are old enough to be able to swallow a whole corn, that's when you switch them over to grain. Okay. So I'll start, when they get about quail size, I'll start throwing some grain with them just to introduce them to grain.
Okay.
And then once I see that, that they're pretty much adapted to just eating grain by itself, then I'll cut it out. I'll cut that out and just give them grain, because it is a lot easier just to feed them grain.
That's right.
Than having to wet the feed, and
right.
It's all about trying to do something efficient when you're short on time.
Exactly. So tell me this, Ferdie. So from that point on, like what stage do you start to free range and take them down to the other farm? What age?
When they're they're either about quail size, but for sure when they start crowing, then I'll let them. But if we could do it sooner, I try to do that.
Okay.
But like I said, because there's so many predators at that open range,
right?
I know that by trying to raise them a little bit bigger, it's going to give them a better chance.
That's right.
To make it.
That's right.
So if I could hold them and keep them healthy until they're about crowing size,
right,
then I'll let them run free.
Got you. So when they're free ranging, how do you feed them then? What do you feed them then?
Over there, my partner over there, he feeds them grain.
Okay.
But after he feeds a bucket of grain, he may feed soaked dog food.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if it's a transition period where they just came from our other farm and they have to go to the range.
Right.
And we want to make sure that their bodies don't drop from the transition.
Right.
And so we want to give them something familiar. So something, so having that wet feed and dog food is something familiar.
Right.
And so, they'll chickens will automatically eat wet dog food all the time.
Right.
So that just helps them with the transition. But the key is feeding grain first so that they'll eat some of that, and then feeding the wet dog food after.
Got you. So that helps you, like you say, to prevent them from dropping off when they make that transition, because sometimes it's stressful. They don't eat as much as they should, but you go ahead and give them that soaked dog food. So this way they don't even have to eat as much, and they'll still be able to maintain a body weight.
That's right. Yep. And that moisture is huge. That moisture is huge for a growing chick, a growing stag.
Right.
They need that moisture in that body. If they dry up, it's not good.
You need that moisture in that. Yeah, that's exactly right. So we got them free ranging. They running out there, and then you got them just on a grain, and you only use that soaked dog food kind of during a transitional period. Do you use it any other time during your feeding program, maybe the worm or anything like that?
Yeah, right now at that other farm, we're feeding soaked dog food almost every Sunday.
Okay.
And because it's molting season too, we'll give that soaked dog food to all of the adult birds as well at that farm.
1 day a week.
Yeah, 1 day a week.
Any particular dog food?
Not necessarily, but the thing is, it needs to have that animal protein in there.
Okay.
Okay. That's important. You need that
meat-based protein, not that corn-based protein. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Okay. So you definitely want to use a dog food with a meat-based protein.
Right.
It
has better nutritional content.
Got you. Okay. All right. So a meat-based protein dog food. Any particular protein levels on the dog food?
Well, with us, even on our regular daily feed, we try to keep the level of protein at about 18%.
About 18%.
And I know that's probably high for a lot of people, because some people feed 15%. But I really prefer 18%. And what I do is I'll take a high protein lay pellet, which is 20% protein, and I'll mix it with a Gamecock type mix that we have here, which is 16% protein.
Okay.
So when you mix the two together, then you got 18%.
And
And, you know, while we're on that topic, Jim, if you don't mind me talking
Yeah,
about
go
it,
ahead.
you know, I had some people asking about, and I saw a post, I think it was from Zach
Right.
Mattingly on Facebook
Right.
about, you know, the cups that they
Right.
use. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk and controversy about the cup that you use, but this is what we use. This is
Restaurant
just a little,
bouillon cup.
yeah, a little sauce cup, you know.
Right.
But I don't want everybody going to their local Sizzler and start stealing cups
Yeah,
and
they're
stuff.
gonna be
But
going to Chili's and every place else. Every place that
but
serves
this,
dressing and all that kind of stuff in that little bouillon cup.
but this is what we use, and we'll just do, you know, we'll just do a heaping cup like that per bird. You know, that's what it looks like.
Okay, a little heaping
Um,
cup. Okay.
yeah, or you know, if it's an adult cock, you know, that you want to try to keep at the right weight, then it'll just be about like that once a day. But if it's a
Got you.
stag, for sure, we're doing a heaping cup on that stag.
Okay.
And the other
Okay.
thing I want to talk about in regards to that feed is, you know, a lot of people talk about, well, what's the right ounces? Is it 3 ounces? Is it 4 ounces? Do you feed once a day, twice a day? What's the right thing to do? To me, the answer to that is it depends on your environment. It depends on your
Right.
location.
Right.
And I have personally experienced it because I have 3 different locations. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, Jim, at the 3 different places that I got, the 3 of us all feed differently. We all feed the same feed, but we
Right.
all feed a different amount.
Wow.
At
Wow.
one place, we use the Vienna sausage cup almost filled to the top. Okay? At the place that I feed at all the time, I use the sauce cup. And my other buddy at the free ranging place, he'll use almost a Vienna sausage cup as well. Definitely more. So there's no question. The answer to that question is it all depends on the circumstances that you have at your particular location.
Okay.
Feed the
And
bird,
Ferdie, go ahead
you
and
know.
say that one more time because it blanked out. So basically, your statement is you have to feed based on your location. It's not no one size fit all cookie cutter system. Vienna sausage cup, not a cup. He's been feeding it for 30 years, so he should know the answer. It's you can't just take it as simple as that. I'm pretty sure, and it's no different than human beings. Everybody can be 180 pounds, but everybody eat different amounts. You know, they don't all eat the
That's right.
same. So
That's
based on
right.
your environment, you know, you can use some advice as a guideline, but you still had to look at your particular birds and take those into consideration of, you know, how they
That's right.
doing? Are they fat? Are they
That's
small? Are
right.
they dry? And then adjust it from there. So you can use the advice of somebody as a guideline, but you're still going to have to do your own homework and judge based upon the condition of your birds, correct?
That's absolutely right. When we got this new facility where we were housing stags and bull stags, I brought this little sauce cup over there, and man, we
Right,
had the old man over there feeding with this cup, and all the birds dropped.
right.
And then I switched over to the Vienna sausage
Wow.
cup, and they got their
Right.
bodies back. And then they started getting a little bit fat, and I told them to switch back to this cup, and man, they dropped again. I was like, you know what? You're sticking to that Vienna sausage cup. Done deal.
Got
You
you.
know?
Got you. Got
So,
you. Got you. And the amazing part about that is not like your 3 locations is in three different states. They all in the same state.
that's right. The climate may be a few degrees different, but I really think it has to deal with like how, you know, the sunshine that they get
Mm-hmm.
in one particular location.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there were birds there prior to that or not.
Right.
You know, the fresh air
Right.
at that location. There's a whole bunch of different factors in regards to the environment. So
Right.
I really think, you know, for the beginners, when you guys are trying to figure out how much to feed, just the bird is going to tell you how much they need.
That's right.
You know, you feed them, and then get something on the ground, you need to cut back, obviously, you know, and the best thing is to pick up the bird. After a week of picking up the bird, after a week of feeding a certain way, pick up the bird and see how the body feels. You know,
Right.
after that, you can adjust.
You can
You know?
adjust. That's exactly right. And it's very good because you got a unique situation because you're seeing a difference in the birds and the feeding, all in the same state, all close proximity, and it shows you that you can't even feed like the guy down the street from you, or
That's right.
or say 15 minutes or 10 minutes away from you. You might not be able to feed the same identical way, and I think that's extremely important that that's not overlooked because a lot of people just copycat what somebody else is doing and say, hey, the guy lives, 15 minutes away. This is what he feeds. He has the same breed of birds because I got him from. There's no shortcut to it. My point is there's no shortcut to it. You're still going to have to do some of your own experimentation. I don't care what the person, how long, how successful they are, who's telling you this information. You are still going to have to do some of your own homework.
No doubt. Absolutely.
So we got the stags out there. They're free ranging. Do you use, now let's talk about your setup. You use tie cords, pins, a combination of both, and why?
You know, if I had the security and the space to be able to use tie cords, I would. But out here where we live in Southern California, one of the biggest challenges that we have is having the legal space to be able to have birds.
Okay.
And at the same time, you got to be able to live somewhere where it's close to your work. At the same time, it's a good school system for your kids. So, you're kind of confined. You're kind of limited to the space that you got. So right now, what we do is we use a variety of fly pins because there's just not enough room to have tie cords. Though I've had tie cords in the past. But the tie cord situation out here is like it's just inviting for someone to jump over the fence. So we tend to use fly pins. But what I do is on the standard fly pins that you'll find, I'll put a 2-foot base on the bottom of it.
Okay.
So they're no longer just 5 feet tall. Now they're 7 feet tall.
Wow.
And so almost. In one of my yards, the whole perimeter is surrounded by fly pins on 2-foot plywood bases, and inside of that we have a horse manure. Okay. So you could put as much horse manure as you want in that thing, and it keeps them active. Right. And then the other thing too is when we make those fly pins, we don't stick them together side by side. Okay. Where they can't see each other. Right. We separate them. We keep them separate, about 18 inches apart. Okay. So that when they're on the ground, they can't see each other. They're going to be enticed to come up so they can look around. They're going to see their neighbor. And then on top of that, we'll have other fly pins that are basically on 2x6s. And they're also spaced out 18 inches apart. I don't like cages where everything is 100% enclosed. I just don't like that. I like the bird to be able to go up on a roost pole and look around his surroundings, see the neighbor next door, see the hen that's running around, on the yard, that kind of thing. That'll keep them active. So tell me this, how high are your roost poles? They're probably right around 5 feet high. Okay, about 5 feet high. About 5 feet high. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, the vast majority of your pins are basically fly pins. You keep your birds pretty much in fly pins. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 7 feet tall because they're 5 feet on top of the 2 feet bases. That's right. Yep. You keep them about 18 inches apart. Yeah, 18 inches apart. And so when they're on the ground, they can scratch in the horse manure and all that stuff. Right. But if they get bored down there, or if they see another bird right next to them jump up on a roost pole, they're gonna jump up on a roost pole too. So it's gonna entice them to keep going up and down that roost pole. and keeps them active. That's the number one thing. You got to keep the birds active.
You got to keep them active. That's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So we talked about, your selection of your brood stock, your history, your selection of your brood stock, your biddy programs, because you are still using a little incubator too, right? Using a little bit of both now.
I'm trying to stay away from using the incubator, to be honest.
Okay.
I have enough hens now where I could, set them up and be able to set, 3 or 4 batches at the same time.
Right.
Multiple times, and that'll be enough for me.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
So, and then we talked about your biddy program as far as the feed, the vaccinations, what feed you start them off with. Then we also talked about, what age you pretty much put them out there on a free range. How old do you usually have your stags when you try to pull them off the free range? Do you try to leave them on there as long as possible? Or is it any particular?
No, we try to leave them out there as long as possible, and sometimes we wait a little too long. But you know how that goes. But yeah, we try to leave them out there as long as we can. The longer out there, the better.
Right.
So,
that's exactly right.
As soon as you see them dropping their wings, where they're getting really cocky, then it's time to pen them up.
Right. So and then like you say, you use pens because of the geographical location. You can't really you're not in a situation where you can use tie cords. We talked about, the importance of adjusting your feed based on the situation and environment that you in. And that's something that you can do, like you say, with feeding and picking them up and filling that body to kind of determine on how you need to feed. You just can't copy somebody else's feeding program because they live in the same town that you live in. It's not that simple. So let's talk about now, since we done kind of came all the way to the end of that. We talked about earlier, you and I talked about earlier about this program that you said that you do out there, that would give game fowl breeders some more credibility, or at least some credibility with the authorities. Tell us a little bit about that program that you participate in.
So there's a program out here that started in, I think it was 2004. 2003, we got hit with a Newcastle epidemic.
Okay.
And where, a bunch of farms, including myself, got wiped out.
Okay.
The CDFA and California Department of Food and Agriculture and the USDA came in and basically euthanized a bunch of birds in 2003.
Okay.
2004, there was a program that was set up called the Game Fowl Health Assurance Program.
Okay.
And the purpose of that program was to help keep the game fowl community informed of different practices, different ways of dealing with disease. They keep you up to date with certain situations that are going on in your area. And then at the same time, to be certified in that, we would have to take a couple birds one time a year to a lab where they would do a necropsy on the bird and check to see how healthy the bird is. And so we went through that, and so I've been a member of that thing for quite a while now. And I'm telling you, with having that affiliation, it's really allowed or given legitimacy to you as a breeder. We have that epidemic right now with Newcastle again.
Right.
And the state veterinarian has really attributed why there hasn't been a spread of Newcastle, because it was 2003 when it happened. Now it's 2019. So we were able to last 16 years without any other outbreak. And they really attribute that to the program. That is one of the main, and that is coming directly from the state veterinarian of California. So you could see how much it legitimizes what we do.
Right. Right.
So I'm a member of it. I've brought in a few key people. We like to try to get a couple key people in different cities that'll be the voice of the program in case there's an outbreak or there's something that needs to be spread. So I brought in a few key people that I thought would be good members.
Got you. So let's also talk about, this is one other thing I want to talk about, and I think is extremely important, is the local ordinances that's being proposed that can have a negative effect on game fowl breeders. And as a game fowl breeder, why it's important to be informed and also be involved in these local ordinances that's being, that's being proposed all the time. I mean, it's because it seems like we only concerned with it when it passes. It seems like not many is concerned with it as it's being proposed. But what type of ordinances that y'all guys that may be dealing with in that area?
Well, one of my farms is in Los Angeles County, and we're dealing with an ordinance issue right now where they supposedly passed an ordinance, but we don't have proof that the governor signed the ordinance as of yet. But they supposedly passed it that they're going to limit the number of birds that you can have on a certain property. And it's a ridiculously low number. It's like 3 birds for an acre property, or 4 birds, something like that.
Wow.
It's something really low. 4 roosters. And in other locations in Southern California, they have 10 roosters max, 50 hens. It's really hard nowadays to find an area in Southern California where we live where there isn't some form of an ordinance. So we were fighting tooth and nail for this ordinance not to pass, but they slipped it under our noses, and so we're doing what we can right now because of the Newcastle epidemic out here. There's nothing that that LA County can do in terms of being able to make us leave or make us, because you're not allowed to move birds. So technically they can't do anything. But once this epidemic has been cleared, we don't know what's going to happen. So we have a fight on our hands, definitely. We don't know what's going to happen. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take the right lawyers, the right people. It's going to take the right person to stand up against them, somebody with the right background, without any kind of bad record. Because that person is basically going to get harassed. So, but we're willing to do it. We have to do it. So we'll see how that pans out. But it's a constant fight,
It's definitely a constant fight, and that was even passed on a local level, huh?
Yes. Yeah. And we talked to our lawyers, and the problem is, the lawyers straight up told us that the city has a lot of rights when it comes to property. They have huge, a long reach when it comes to what they can and can't do on a property. So it makes it really tough. It makes it really, really tough. But it's really stupid, because where we are, 99.9% of the people around us have birds. Right. So there's so much more property where if you didn't like chickens, you can go live somewhere else.
That's right. That's right.
The properties where you're technically allowed to have birds is very limited, and that's where we try to be. And so they're going to take that away from us. Is going to make it tough.
Wow, that is unbelievable. So that's a situation deep, and I'm assuming the county commissioners are the ones who propose those rules.
Board of Supervisors, yeah. It was there was a big ordeal out here. Yeah, there was a big ordeal out here in Los Angeles County where there was a location where it hit the news all over the nation. It was 5,000 some odd birds that they claimed were for the purpose of fighting. Yeah. However, there was never ever any charges pressed against anybody. Nothing.
Wow.
There's absolutely nothing that ever transpired from it. So basically, it's almost as though this this particular supervisor just did something to save face. And so she proposed this ordinance, and everyone else jumped on board, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
Wow.
But, yeah. It's getting tough. It's really tough.
It's getting tough. It's getting really tough. And I can tell you, we definitely working from behind the 8 ball. But one of the things that that is coming to roost is the fact that we have to start taking some type of action, because as long as we sit back idly by, they just going to keep chipping away. And that's how they do it. They just chip away. They don't come in all dramatic. They just chip away and chip away and chip away and chip away. Then we all kind of get a little complacent. We adjust our lifestyle. We adjust our operation. And before you know, we wake up one day and it's like, wow, look at where we at right now. That's exactly right.
It's tough, man, especially for, you know, somebody like me where, you know, I got my own business out here in Southern California.
Right.
I got my kids in a really good school district.
Right.
I can't just uproot everybody and leave and go somewhere else in order to have birds.
Right.
You know, it's hard. You got to keep a balance.
Yeah.
And it makes it really difficult. But, you know, we try to hang in there and try to fight it out. We'll see what happens.
And just try to make the best out of it. But Ferdie, man, it's been an awesome interview, man. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I'm sorry about the start of the interview with the jumping off and coming on. That's something that we really can't get away. You know, we can't get around because we are using Facebook platform. But if you can, you know, if you could go into the comment section when you get time, again, if you could post the pictures of those products. It's a lot of questions that's been posted. If you could address those questions when you get time, that'd be great. And then, like I said, if you can post that information, I'll PM you my email address. So this way you can send that to me, because I really need to have that on my computer. Because like I say, I'm using paper now. I don't have it on a computer. I am using paper. And I'm actually one of those examples of, you know, when you use paper, this can happen, that can happen. And that's the situation I'm in right now. But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, man. And I ask you, like I do all of the guests that comes on, later on in the future, will you be willing to come and do a part 2?
Oh, man, anytime, Jim. It's an honor, you know, to be on your show. Man, I wish I could meet you in person, bro. I'm really happy to do this. I'm really happy to spread the word and, you know, try to help anybody out. So, you know, whatever I can do, man.
Well, it's been great, man. And it's been a lot of great information, man. I'm telling you, it's a lot of points. And the guys go back and they relook at these interviews to catch different things that they haven't seen the first time and second time. A guy messaged me the other day and said he looked at one interview 3 times. That's what it's all about, man. I mean, sometimes you don't get it all when you're watching it live. Sometimes you got to go back and relook at it and look at it again. But it's extremely, because, listen, guys like you is helping lay the foundation for the next generation. You know, again, it's like I say, you're good if you can replicate what you already have. If what you have is good and you can replicate that, that's actually improving, because that's not easy to be done. So it's guys like yourself, man, that can lay the foundation for the next generation, which obviously will allow us to keep our culture and this sport alive. But not only that, it saves years of time, years of, you know, a lot of money. But the most important thing that this stuff do is it minimizes the frustration, because a lot of guys quit because, you know, everybody ain't built the same. And a lot of guys quit. Some guys can't afford to make these mistakes 2 or 3 times. Some guys can't afford, you know, to have all their chicks die. You know, some people are not in that position where they can continue. It's either like, this season is a make or break. You know, if I don't make it through this season, I'm done. But these interviews allow us to be able to supply them with information that, you know, may be able to minimize those situations. And I don't think a lot of guys understand how important and how valuable these interviews are, because, again, it's saving you time, it's saving you money, it's saving you frustration, and it's teaching you things that you don't have to learn every single thing on your own. You know, it's very difficult to have to learn everything from experimentation. Sometimes you like to learn something from somebody telling you. But like I say, man, I mean, I greatly appreciate you coming on, just like with every guest that have came on prior. And then we look forward to having you on again. I apologize about the bad feedback and video. But listen, we'll be in contact, man. I'm going to send you my email address. Send that over to me. When you get time, like I said, if you can go in these comments and address those questions and post those pictures, we would greatly appreciate that.
I will. Hey, thanks a lot, Jim, for having me on. You know, and good night to everybody out there. Good morning to the Philippines.
All righty, brother, man. You enjoy the rest of the evening. We'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, take care, bud.
All right. Have a good night.